up, everybody? Welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. It's your boy Rob here. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope everyone's doing good out there. This is going to be a shorter episode than usual. We're just going to be covering some college football today as we bring on Paul back onto the podcast once again. We had him last week. Now this week, the college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday. And now, we have our college football expert here. And, we get into all the rankings. So that's a fun time. Before we get into that, I just want to, say congratulations to President Donald Trump on becoming the 47th president of the United States of America. I know I don't get political on here, but, I wanted to make sure to congratulate President Trump. And, I just want to say I firmly believe and I know in my heart that God has his hand on President Trump and that he wants him to be the leader of the free world right now. I wholeheartedly believe that. For those of you who didn't vote for President Trump, who don't support him, who don't like him, I completely understand. You might be super angry right now, super sad, and it's completely normal, because the person you voted for didn't win, and that's just how it goes. That's normal to react like that. But I just ask that you be open-minded and that you pray. Even if you didn't vote for him, please pray for him that God, puts his hand on him so he could, lead us into the right direction to make America great again. And yeah, like I said, I know I don't get political on here, but I wanted to make sure, this is my platform at the end of the day. And I want to stand up for what I believe is the right thing. So yeah, congratulations to President Trump. And with that said, I want to give some quick thoughts on the Miami Dolphins. Unfortunately, we lost once again. We fought at 2-6 on the year. We lost 30-27, 2 heartbreaking losses in a row. Last week, Arizona beats us on a last-second field goal, and this week, Buffalo beats us on a last-second field goal, 61-yarder by Tyler Bass after he had missed an extra point in his previous kick attempt, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Ultimately, Buffalo made less mistakes, and therefore they ended up winning the game. They improved to 7-2. It was a great game once again for the offense. Tua looked amazing. I think it was one of the best games of his career, if not the best game of his career. He went 25 for 28 with 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, unfortunately, the defense once again couldn't stop the opposing offense. They fell against Arizona, and now they fought at Buffalo. And, it's unfortunate. It's just one of those things. I feel like each game for the Dolphins this year, it's like, one side did good, but the rest did horrible. And that's kind of just how it's been this year for the Dolphins, unfortunately. Now we move on. We play on Monday Night Football in LA against a hot LA Rams team who's coming into their own as they're getting healthy. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Sean McVay, one of my favorite coaches in the league, one of the rare elite coaches in the NFL. Should be a cool matchup. Like I said, Monday Night Football on ESPN. But yeah, those are my quick thoughts on the Dolphins. And with all that said, make sure to keep it locked in here to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. Follow us on social media, on Instagram and TikTok at the Flame_ES. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And now let's get into some college football talk with Paul. All right, guys, for another week, we have Paul back on the podcast to talk some college football. The first college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday night, and there's a lot of interesting rankings on there, a lot of different opinions and stuff to talk about. And yeah, we're gonna start off with the top 10 teams, but before we get into that, yeah, welcome back, bro. Thanks for taking the time again. It was great to have you on again. So it's great to have you on again for a second week in a row.
Yeah, maybe me being on is what catalyzed this being such a crazy week or weekend of college football. It was a lot of upsets, man. It was honestly really fun to watch. Even the Gator game that was real close. I think it was tied with 5 minutes in the fourth with a lot of injuries and stuff. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that was a huge scare. They had Ohio State beat Penn State in their place. Texas A&M got dogged by South Carolina. Texas Tech beats 11 Iowa State. Louisville beats 11 Clemson. They dominated them too. Pitt gets dogged by SMU. There was just a lot of upsets, a lot of games that I don't think everyone was really predicting this to be a crazy weekend. I'm sure people were looking forward to this date, but it really did deliver, and it was it's gonna have ramifications for the playoffs and for conference runs and stuff.
But I think you're right. The main reason, yeah, is because we recorded together and the drama started, right? The drama continues now. And no, yeah, something this super random. This has obviously nothing to do with football or like the game itself. But I don't know if you saw after South Carolina won. Did you see their coach? It was like his wife's birthday.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You saw he sung like a song by Fantasia, freaking American Idol, man. From
Yeah.
years ago. That was hilarious.
Oh, dude, I was thinking, he was like, "Oh, you guys know the song? You sing it in practice." The last song I was expecting him to say was that. I was like, "What?" It was pretty funny though. They all got into it. It looked
Yeah,
really good.
I found it. It looked like Blue Mountain State or something.
Yeah, I like the way he carries his team. He looks like a good leader for sure.
Nah, it's freaking great. Great win for him. But yeah, I had to mention that because I watched it like 3 or 4 times the video, and I was just cracking up. I don't know.
Oh man, I think it might have been arguably his biggest wins there in his career. To be honest with you,
Nah, it's freaking amazing. But yeah, like you said, the Gators man put up a hell of a fight. I watched that game. I think it's encouraging, right, to have a coach that he's able to keep a team alive, even though it's been an up and down year. Um, that's super rare to find because I feel like most coaches they kind of fold or they don't know how to handle themselves under pressure. But I think the Gator coach is showing that he keeps his guys going, and this super random. People are gonna think I'm freaking fried, but uh, it's like the Marlins. A manager we just got rid of, Skip Schumacher. Like what this year we lost like 100 games, and regardless, every single night he had the team ready to play. They're always competitive. And I just think that's a quality that people don't really talk about enough. And yeah, I think it was an impressive showing, bro, by the Gators. So
yeah, I'm really proud of Coach Napier. I think he's done a good job, especially this week coming off the bye. We've seen a lot of SEC teams coming flat off of the bye, and you could say Georgia was one of them because they had a bye too. Um, but they looked ready. They looked as prepared as they could have been. That's all you could really ask for. The injuries, are something you can't control for, and unfortunately, we were ravaged by injuries. A lot of people are saying that if we would have, if Lightweight would have never gotten hurt, we would have won. It is what it is. We still lost. What I am glad though is it wasn't too serious of an injury, from what it sounds like. He might even play against Texas this weekend, which is reassuring. It looked bad after he got carted off, but we had a multiple defensive backs go down. Like we were down to probably like it felt like our scout team defensive back. That's how thin we were after playing in TIA Bank Stadium. I think that's what it's so called, but the Jag Stadium was killing us that day. It was good to see some fight from the guys. I don't see anyone calling for Napier's head as it is right now, and I think that's good. We need to just not get absolutely manhandled by Texas and Ole Miss and LSU and everyone else in front of us. But let's see what we can cook up.
now, yeah, as long as you guys keep fighting like that, playing that same way, I think you're gonna have a shot against anyone. But yeah, before we get into the rankings, just to mention really quick about in Miami, we pick up another win. We beat our former coach Manny Diaz. We start off hot. They come back. They take the lead. And the beginning of the fourth quarter, we're up. We took a 1 point lead, 32-31, and then we just like all of a sudden the defense and offense just like I don't know what the hell happened. Like something clicked and the fourth quarter was like dominated. It went from 32-31 to 53, right? The 53, yeah, 53-31 in the
Mm-hmm.
fourth quarter, which was freaking insane. And I think this team just keeps showing that they're resilient. I think that's a quality um, that you gotta have, to compete for a championship in any sport, any level. You need to show resilience. If not, you're not gonna go anywhere. So yeah, I'm proud of the fight, and we pick up another win, and it feels pretty cool to freaking see us, ranked in the top four of the college football playoff rankings. You think even a year ago, like look at us now, and it's just like I'm just like grateful, as a fan, and I'm just trying to enjoy the moment because I know it's so like hard to be like this good and to be at the top of any sport. So I'm just taking it in and enjoying the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. In college football, you can't take that for granted because you can be up one moment and down the next. It's so volatile. It's so fragile, that success. So I'm glad you're enjoying the ride, Rob. I don't know if you could pull this up another time, but last week I didn't have that many correct predictions. If you look at the poll, it wasn't too good, but I did say that was going to come out not sloppy, but it was going to be close early on, maybe around halftime, and then they come out and they'll pull away. It took a lot longer than I probably expected it to, and they won by way more than I expected them to when I was watching that game midway through the third quarter. I think they were down like 11, like I think it was like 28-17, something like that.
Yeah.
And they ended up covering, which the spread was like 21, 22 points. I don't know how they did it. It like I knew that they would pull away, but and I didn't expect it to be like that. I was like, oh, they'll win this game, but they'll claw it out. But they did not claw out. They dominated that second half, and it was a pretty impressive win. Actually, it was I think one of the more impressive wins I've seen from them all year. It wasn't a complete game, but it was an emotional, tough game, and it was like one that they just needed to have. At the end of the day, they control their own destiny. So as long as they keep winning, they'll be fine.
Amen. Yeah, now this weekend they have Georgia Tech on the road, and they have Wake Forest at home, final home game, and then end the regular season at Syracuse. So 3 games left, and just gotta keep doing what they're doing. Just find a way to win. At the end of the day, that's like, I mean, that should be the goal for any team.
Yeah, and if they play the way they've been playing it, they won't have any trouble with those 3 teams. So.
Nah, for sure. So yeah, now let's get into these college football rankings. I'll read a couple, the first couple of teams here. We have Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, Texas at number 5, and then Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, BYU, and Notre Dame. So that's the top 10. Are there any in those top 10 any rankings that stand out more than the other? Or
I will say we talked about this before the show, Rob, and it's just very jarring to me how the rankings, even especially the top 10, everything is almost exactly identical to the AP top 25 from this week, except Georgia and Ohio State were flipped for the AP. So I don't understand why. I get that some of them are going to be similar. I think we can all agree Oregon is the top team in the country. They've proven that time in and time again, for sure. And you could argue between a few other ones, of course, but it just seems odd that it's so lined up. Like, did the AP influence the rankings that much? I don't know. It's weird. Like, I wouldn't have expected them to have put BYU at 9. To be honest with you, I know they're undefeated, but that doesn't sound like something the committee usually would have done. This early. Like, I say this early into the season. I know that they've played 8 games, but um, I don't know. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I do think that they got a few of them right. I'm glad that they gave Indiana props where they deserved it. Um, they are 9-0. People might be like they haven't played anyone. You're right. They have not played anyone with half of a pulse, but they have taken care of business every single time they've been dogging teams. Rob, they've been like leaving no doubt, which at the end of the day is all you could do. There's been a lot of teams, even Oregon, beginning of the season, people forget they almost lost to Boise State. Boise State's only losses to Oregon. It was a 1-score game. Oregon also played a really close game against Idaho. So but Indiana, they haven't played against those 2 teams, but they've been taking care of everyone in front of them. So I'm glad that they have them in the top 10. Um, you know, let's see what they do after this. There's still a lot of chaos that's going to happen in front of them, so they might not have to do much to keep moving up. But if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to end up in the Big Ten championship, and we'll see what happens from there.
that's freaking awesome. I know we talked about it last week, like Indiana, but yeah, before we recorded, I was telling you seeing some of these teams on here and these rankings just makes me happy because they're teams that we usually don't see ranked at this point of the season. Where they are right now, and Indiana is one of those. Like you said, BYU number 9. I think it's amazing. SMU's at 13. Seeing those schools is just amazing. And one more question. It just popped into my head. What's your take on the teams that they have one loss and then they're ahead of an undefeated team? Does that just go back to strength of schedule? Or?
Yeah, are you talking about Miami being number 4?
No, I'm cool with that. Miami, I'm cool. But let's say you have 5, 6, and 7, right? They each have one loss, and then you have Indiana and BYU undefeated. So
Yeah,
I'm just curious what you think.
Yeah, quality of loss is important because if you look at Penn State's only loss, it was I think once. How many did they lose to Ohio State by? It was a one-score game, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I
one
think
score game
20-13.
to Ohio State. Yeah, so to the number two team, right? So that's I mean as good of a loss as you'll get. Texas to Georgia, so the number three team. They
Yeah,
were getting whooped, but they ended up making it kind of close for a while, and then whatever. But and then Tennessee's only loss was to I think it Arkansas. Uh, it was just like it was Arkansas. It was a close game, real close game in Neyland. So they've just had real tight losses, but they've otherwise shown that they're top teams in the nation. Um, there's no moral victories, but a good loss is a lot better than a bad loss, right? So look at Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. Let's say they just had that one loss. I think they'd still be behind those three teams. Um, Even though Vanderbilt's a good team this year, don't get me wrong, the committee would see that as like a worse loss than what those other three teams have. But Indiana, like, doesn't have the resume to be in front of those teams right now, and they don't have they're just not a name. Unfortunately, they look at like branding and eye test and whatever that means. It's kind of hard for a committee member to say I think Indiana is actually better than Tennessee. You know, um, because it's like just saying those words is like, are we talking about basketball or are we talking about football? So
yeah, yeah.
I think that unfortunately is part of it when they don't have such a great schedule in front of them. But at the end of the day, like I said, the good thing about the expanded playoff is that we don't have to worry about these as much because they're going to sort themselves out.
Got you. No, yeah, I was just, I was curious. I assumed it was like, based off like who you lost to, who you played and stuff, but I just wanted to get like your take on it. But so yeah, you mentioned Alabama and the next team, right? They're ranked 11th, and we have Boise State, SMU, Texas A&M, LSU, right? 11 through 15. Of those, of those five right there, which team, in your opinion, has like the best shot of like competing for a national championship?
Well, I want to answer your question, but I just
Okay.
want to tell everyone don't sleep on Notre Dame. They're the sneakiest team in college football right now. They're at
Oh,
10. No one's talked about them since that Northern Illinois loss, but they've been good. And like nobody's talking about them. They're a very good team, and they're 10. They don't have a conference championship, so they're a sneaky team. But I want to answer your question. You're saying of those five teams, which one has the best chance to compete in the playoff, or what do you mean by that?
yeah, like the team you think like the best team out of those like 11 through 15 that has the best chance to like compete for a championship.
Man, that's a tough question. Alabama has been inconsistent this year. They have guys that have been there before, both on their staff and on their team. They have guys that have made it to the playoff or whatnot, so they know the formula. Boise State is like the opposite, like they're the at-large team. If anything, they're going to be probably the group of five team that gets in if everything stays put, everything stays out as it is. And SMU, another one with no experience, they're the new kid on the block, and that leaves A&M and LSU, which we saw how that played out. A&M beat LSU. I think they have the better team, and I think Mike Elko will prep them better than Brian Kelly would. To be honest with you, it's just this last weekend. I think people are. I don't think that South Carolina is getting the credit they deserve from that win because they're actually a good team this year, and it's a hard place to play. And they got destroyed. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen a lot of teams make a real good turnaround after a loss this year. A&M's only other loss was to Notre Dame, which like I said, that was a close game to a really good team. If he can really rally them, they have the talent and the players and the coaching to do it. I think I'm high on them this year. I'm usually not high on A&M, but I've seen more than flashes from them that make them look like a team that can compete to at least make a run at the very least.
Got you. Now those are all great points, and I think it goes back to like Mike Elko, like what a job he's done, and
Yep.
he just got there, a couple months ago. Like it's insane to see them at this level already, and like you said, their two losses are against two of the top teams in the nation. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, just a random shout out. They have a defensive, a pass rusher, Shamar Stewart. He went to Pace, so that's pretty cool. He's a
Oh,
Pace Spartan right there.
he went to Pace. That's
He
crazy.
was like I remember he was like one of the top players in the country. That was between A&M and Miami, and we were all hoping, that he'd change his mind and stay here. But hey, it worked out for him, and it worked out for Miami. At the end of the day, when you look at it, yeah, yeah, that money. Maybe if Cristobal. Wait, was that Cristobal? No, that was Manny Diaz's last year, right? Or Cristobal's first year. I forgot. No, I'm crazy. Cristobal literally got in like that off season. You get me? So he barely
Yeah,
had time. But yeah, shout out to Shamar Stewart. He'll be in the NFL soon, representing Pace. So pretty cool. Um,
oh. Do you have any
but
thoughts about those five teams though? Any? I know you have a few that you like, but I want to hear your thoughts.
got you. Yeah, no, a team that um I want to talk about like SMU. Like you said, obviously they're like the new kid on the block. I think that was a good description. But I feel like sometimes with a team like that, right? They just kind of came out of nowhere. Even though they've improved over the last couple of years, they've gotten better. You never know. Like I think of any sport, if you make it into the playoff, you have a chance. And I know college football it could be different because a lot of times there's like elite teams. There's elite teams and then there's pretty good teams. But like I feel with this 12 team format, that like these random teams that could sneak in, they can have a shot. To me, as long as you make it into the dance, you have a shot. So that's a team I'm keeping my eye on, and I just think they're really well coached. That's like my favorite part about them. Rhett Lashley, I mentioned it on here last week. Like he was the OC for Miami under Manny Diaz,
Yeah.
and he's just like a leader of men. He's not just a offensive mind. He, there's so many like ex Hurricanes actually who played here for Manny Diaz on that roster now. One of them, his name is Brashard Smith. He was a receiver here, and now Lashley converted him to a running back over there. But yeah, he's just one of those guys that you could just tell he's a leader, and all these players love playing for him. They'd run through a wall for him. So I'm keeping my eye out on SMU. And as it stands right now, like to go back to Miami, if the season were to end today, like you told me before we recorded, it'd be Miami and SMU in the ACC championship. Former OC of Miami, and Miami going for their first ACC championship, and I think it'd be a hell of a matchup. I know most people want Miami Clemson, but I don't know. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about SMU there, but you have any other thoughts there, bro, on those 11 through 15 teams?
No, but that would be a first ACC championship for either one of those teams. It'd be wild that if SMU made it their first year to the ACC championship. Like you said, they're on pace to as it stands right now. But they have a hell of a team. They have a great coaching, and they just got Matt Leinart's son to commit to them, which is a pretty cool story that came out today. Cole Leinart, quarterback, uh, commits to SMU Stangs. So
That's an amazing story. Yeah, you told me before we recorded, and yeah, I told you it took me back all the way 20 years ago, seeing Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, against Vince Young in that championship game. But um, one more cool fact about SMU. So I'm sure you remember. You remember that quarterback Miami had under Manny Diaz, the Eric King.
yeah,
Okay, it's pretty cool. Right now, actually, he's a quarterbacks coach at SMU. So he after playing at Miami, he had a bunch of injuries, so he kind of retired. And then Lashley like offered him, a spot to be on his staff. So I don't know, I think that speaks volumes. I think Lashley just like really cares about these guys beyond like what they do on the playing field. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. That's all you can ask for in a coach, man.
for sure, I love it. But yeah, let's move on now. So I'm gonna read the 16 through 20 rankings now. We have Ole Miss, Iowa State, Pitt, Kansas State, and Colorado. Um, Anything stand out about like any of those teams there, or do you feel any of them like should be higher than they are ranked, or anything like
I
that?
think, yeah, this is a weird like batch of them because to me, I think Ole Miss could easily be like in the top 10.
Well,
Just talent wise, coaching wise, I think they could easily be in the top 10. Things haven't gone their way this year. They've had a couple tough losses, but I think the gap between them, Iowa State, Pittsburgh, and Kansas State is massive. Honestly, uh, like I don't think that. I think if they played either of those teams on a neutral field, they win by double digits handily.
yeah,
Um, Jackson Dart and the whole nine, they look good. Uh, they were missing what do you call it, Trey Harris, one of their best receivers. this past weekend against a sneaky good Arkansas team, and I picked Arkansas to keep it close. And Ole Miss put up like 63 points. I want to say they look like they're firing on all cylinders, just in time for a huge matchup that they have against Georgia this week. That'll be either the last nail in their coffin for the season in terms of playoff hopes or their revival. Georgia looks shaky against us, so they have a shot. I think it's in Georgia. I think it's in Athens. So it's going to be obviously an uphill battle, but they have a real good team, Rob. They're like the odd man out in that one, especially looking at what Iowa State and Pitt. I think even Kansas State lost. I think all three of those three teams lost um, to inferior opponents, or not to inferior opponents, to opponents that they should have at least kept it close with or won. Um, and they just don't look like they are the same caliber of team Ole Miss is. Colorado, on the other hand, is a sneaky team, man. Like they might honestly, if I had to pick the Big 12 champion today, I think I'd bet on them. I promise you, that sounds weird. I'm not even a big like Colorado enthusiast. Not that I have anything against Dion or any of them. I see something there that they're like working in silence. They're brewing something, um, and they've been looking a lot better on the offensive line. The defense has been looking better. They look like they're putting it together little by little. I'm not saying they're going to make a run for the whole thing, but for the Big 12 championship, they have a damn good chance.
Nah, it's exciting, man. To hear you talk that way about two teams, ranked 16 through 20. I think that's super exciting. And I think it'd be freaking awesome. Add to the drama of Ole Miss, beats Georgia. And that'll be freaking crazy. Could shake up all of college football, right? When you think about it. And the way you describe them, they sound like the ideal like sleeper team, just to freaking all of a sudden get hot now and run the table, they just go in hot.
And this is it. This is like everything for them. This game this week. So, you know,
Damn, that's
if
amazing.
Georgia can afford to lose and still probably make the playoff, Ole Miss can't.
Wow. Nah, bro, I don't know. I have a feeling I'm like, damn, I think they're gonna do it. We need the drama, man.
Yeah, I'm rooting for it. Where is it? Oh no, it's at home against Georgia. It's in
Oh, let's go.
Austin. So I misspoke. So yeah, let's see, man.
Let's go. That'll be freaking crazy. But yeah, okay. So you mentioned Colorado there. I saw Shedeur Sanders finally declared, right, for the draft. I'm pretty sure. I think so. I'm going to the league, whatever he said.
Yeah, I know it's funny. I think it was like unofficially declared, but yeah. For you guys that didn't hear that, what was it they were like saying about registering for classes at 8:30 in the morning? He was like, "I'm gonna be in the league, whatever."
Like, bro,
He's
he's
yeah.
something else.
I mean, I can't deny that he is going to be, but it's just funny.
That's hilarious. So, but it matches Colorado. I don't know. Um, all right. So then the final teams in this top 25. We have Washington State, Louisville, and Clemson, two ACC teams there, and then Missouri and Army. That's freaking amazing, by the way. The Army's still undefeated, and they have that final spot now in the rankings. But yeah, those five teams. Which one? Do you? Let me see. Which one? I think this is a good question. Of those final five teams, which one can you see like moving up significantly before the regular season ends?
As of now, I'd say Louisville.
Okay.
Louisville has they play at Stanford. They're on bye right now. They just like embarrassed Clemson. Rob, let me tell you something. Clemson hasn't lost a home game at night in years, like years. I think it's been like almost a decade, if not around that. And they went in there on Saturday and they just embarrassed them in front of their family and loved ones. Um, Louisville put like they since the Miami loss, even though that was a close one, they've been putting it together. Their only other losses were to SMU, who we now know is like a top 15 team, and Notre Dame, which, like I said, is
Okay.
sneaky good. They're the number 10 team. So they've had quality losses, if you want to call it that. Now they got Stanford, Pitt, and Kentucky coming up. Those are all winnable games, very winnable games. So um, they're the only team there I see that's like on the up. Uh, Washington State, I don't have too many opinions on. I've just heard that they're like that they don't deserve to be there. They can prove that, not me. But um, Louisville just dog Clemson. I still don't think Missouri deserves to be there, and I sound like a hater, but that's my opinion. I think the Bama loss was proof of that. Just the fact that they got blanked 34-0 was just
Yeah.
a bad look. They have a couple tough games coming up, even though people might be like, this is a pretty trash schedule. They got Oklahoma, which has looked shaky. South Carolina at South Carolina, and we saw what just happened with them in Texas A&M. Then they're at Mississippi State and versus Arkansas. So they're not going to have an easy go of it, but I think Louisville is the team right now.
Got you. And by any chance, have you watched Army?
I'm not.
Okay. No, I'm just like curious because I've been like following like, oh, they win again, but I haven't watched anything, so I have like no clue like what they're like, you know?
Yeah, I haven't honestly watched them. It's hard. Those service academies sometimes are hard to watch. I root for them on the side, but to watch their games is tough. They do play Notre Dame in a few weeks, so we'll see how that goes.
Damn, that'll be insane. But no, yeah. So that rounds up the top 25. But since you mentioned Notre Dame, like you mentioned them earlier, it is interesting. You're right. Like there's been no talk about them, and usually I'm always like annoyed because I'm always like, bro, like they don't shut up about Notre Dame, and then it sounds like this year they're actually legit for the first time. Like like realistically for a good contender, and then I guess yes, the first year that all of a sudden there's no talk about them.
It's insane, man. I think after that Northern Illinois embarrassment, they've been on a tear. They've beat the only other they've won every game since then and handedly, except they beat Louisville by a touchdown. Other than that, they've been smoking everyone. Even though the competition hasn't been good, but they've been taking care of business like Purdue. I mean not Purdue, like Indiana, like we've been talking about. They have Florida State this week, which I wonder what the spread on that game is. Honestly, now I'm curious.
I mean, like,
26.5. And I think I'd take Notre Dame on that. Then they have Virginia, who's not a great team. Then Army, like we talked about, and then USC, who's had a under par season at the very least. So they have a very clear shot, a very clear chance of getting into the playoff. And once that happens, like you said, you're in the dance. So all bets are off. Like you're there. Do it.
nah, 100%. And like you said, they had that, that loss to like, a school that's not known for being a good football program, but a lot of times like championship teams or championship caliber teams, they build off of that. How you respond to that shows the type of team you are. And like you said, they've been taking care of business, and even like you said, oh, it wasn't a huge margin of victory over Louisville, but Louisville's a freaking awesome team. You know what I mean? So no, I think that's something to point out, and you're right. I can't believe I didn't realize that. Yeah, Notre Dame, no one's talking about them. I think it feels like for the first time in our lifetime. You know what I mean?
And
Like yeah.
it's true. It's very true. It feels like it's like sometimes like, oh my God, again, like we all know
Yeah,
they're going to play off and lose. So like, why are we talking about them? But
they're gonna get smacked up. Yeah.
they might not happen this year. But to your point about like learning from that loss, I saw a clip that apparently Marcus Freeman every week in practice shows them the highlights of that Northern Illinois loss and like makes the team watch it. Like they're like,
Wow,
don't forget how embarrassed you were, how horrible you felt. Like don't forget it. And like that is some insane motivation.
that's
He's
amazing.
like a great motivator. That guy. I'd love to have him as a coach, but so that he's not letting them forget. And I think it's been speaking to how they've been playing this season since then.
No, I didn't know that about like Coach Freeman, but that's freaking amazing. And it kind of gives me like old school type of vibes, like that. I feel like that's something Belichick or Saban will fucking do. Like they'll keep reminding you, remember, you guys got your ass kicked, whatever. Yeah, and honestly too, in terms of this kind of random, but I feel like him in his short time, like Freeman, I've like gained more respect for Notre Dame than I did before. Because I'm not a huge fan of Coach Kelly. I know LSU now. I've always kind of found him as like one of the most overrated coaches in the history of college football. But whatever, that's kind of random. But there's just something about him. I'm not a huge fan. But like I said, I know it's random. But what do you think? What do you think about that?
No, he's way more likable than Coach Kelly is by a lot. I think anyone, even people who are close to Chip Kelly, could even agree on that. Marcus Freeman is like just like I don't know, the way he carries himself and the way he seems to carry his team is just likable. I don't know if USC fans would feel the same way, but they probably hate both of them. But they probably even agree honestly that they could tolerate Freeman compared to Chip Kelly. I mean Chip Kelly, Brian Kelly. Um,
No, you.
I get it honestly.
Yeah, okay, good. No, I'm glad you understand because I know it's kind of random, but yeah, it's just something I've never understood. Like, people go like crazy about that guy. He keeps getting these big contracts. And I'm sorry, at the end of the day, like I need to see you win a damn championship. If you're gonna be called a legend, you're gonna get all these accolades and this fucking money. I'm sorry for the cursing, but I just don't understand sometimes. It just makes me wonder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when you gotta win a damn championship. I'm sorry, like I'm sorry, he like reminds me not as bad, but like kind of like a Doc Rivers who, for those of you who know me or
Yeah.
listen over the years, I think he's the most overrated coach in NBA history. Um, but whatever. Like now I'm talking about freaking Doc Rivers, but
I think that's actually a pretty fair comparison. I actually like that, but it's hard to win a championship. It's hard. He's been there a few times, like to the playoff, and just didn't get it done. I think it's hard because college football. I've told you about this. There's only three current college football head coaches that have ever won as a coach the national championship. That's Mac Brown, and that was 20 years ago, like we talked about. The Kirby Smart and Dabo, and it feels like Dabo won it like decades and decades ago too. It wasn't that long ago, but those are the only three out of the 134 ish teams that are out there, head coaches that are out there right now. So it's hard, but I get it. He's I could see why you'd make that comparison for sure.
got you. But yeah, no. Before we wrap up here, since we're talking about LSU, I just want to shout out Mason Taylor, their tight end. Obviously, son of Jason Taylor. I can't wait to see him on Sundays pretty soon. I have a feeling he'll probably declare pretty soon, but whatever. It's kind of random, but yeah, I just
He's been
love
on
the
the team
those.
for a while, man. He's been on that team for
Huh?
a minute. How long has he been there? Like
Yeah,
what year is he?
this is his third year. I'm pretty sure his junior year.
I remember when he caught that touchdown to beat Bama, or was it a 2 point conversion actually to win it? Uh, that felt like
That
it
was
was
his
so.
freshman year. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess that was 2 years ago. It felt like 4 or 5 years ago already. That's crazy.
I remember his first game. It was like against FSU. It was one of those opening weekend games. It was LSU, FSU,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, oh, that makes sense. That was 2 years ago. That was that game was wild.
it
The
was,
extra play. Yeah, that was a wild game.
that was like an exciting game. Yeah.
Both
Um,
of those games were good. Like both years that they played against each other.
Not for sure, but yeah, I just wanted to give that shout out because I think that guy is like the type of tight end he is. He's like perfectly made for the NFL because he's like super tall, athletic. Like he has his dad's body, literally, but he's a freaking tight end. Then he could catch like a receiver, but then he could block like a freaking lineman. Like he's an all around tight end. I want him as a Dolphin, not and it's not because his dad's my favorite player. Like we haven't had a sorry, yeah. Now I'm gonna go off, but Mike Gesicki's my guy. Everyone knows that's my guy, and one of the uh, one of the best receiving tight ends I've ever seen. And you see him finally this year. He finally found a home in Cincinnati. He's actually being used, and he scored 2 touchdowns this past weekend and everything. But yeah, actually Mason Taylor, the way he catches the ball, the tight end reminds me of Gesicki. So I just wanted to put that out there to the world and manifest it. Mason Taylor, the next tight end of the Miami Dolphins. That'll be a pretty cool story. But
That would be a cool story for sure. I remember watching Jason Taylor as a kid, so that would be pretty poetic for sure.
the best. But yeah, man. Any other thing you wanna mention here with the rankings or anything else in college football?
No, not for the rankings. I will say, I just looked at the spread for the Ole Miss Georgia game. Georgia's favored by 2.5, which is pretty tight for the number three team versus 16, right? Um, I was just looking at some stats too. Jackson Dart has 3 picks on the whole year, as opposed to Beck had three last game, and I think he's had 11 over the last 5 games or something like that. So, um, if Georgia finds themselves like in the negatives for the turnover battle, like they did against the Gators, I think this is one Ole Miss can really steal from them, man. I'm honestly gonna. It, I think it's going to be a one-score game. I don't know about 3 points, but I think Ole Miss keeps it within a touchdown. Georgia might win though. I'll pick Georgia to win just um, because they're the better team. They really are. But if they don't put it together, Ole Miss is going to steal it from them.
Got you. All right, this random. You're the one that watches. You watch these teams. Look, what I'm gonna say is just a good thing. I haven't seen these. Like I haven't watched these teams all season, all their games or anything like that. I'm just gonna say Ole Miss wins by 4. So I don't know.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah,
I say Georgia wins by 4.
let's go. But nah, it sounds like a fun game though, man. I think it'll be such a cool storyline if Ole Miss wins that. Like, can you imagine? That'll be it's even more to talk about.
Oh my, yeah, we'll be talking about it next week for sure.
Gotta add it into the script. We need the writers to get it going. Bro. But yeah, not anything else. College football, man.
Last game I want to talk about. You guys might think I'm an SEC homer, but they're really the only good games, the only worthwhile games this week, unless there's some crazy upsets. Is Bama versus LSU. It's always a huge game. It's in LSU, but I don't know. I can't. I don't trust LSU this year as much as I thought I would going into the season. I think it's the quarterback situation. I'm not a huge Nussmeier fan. Nothing against the guy. I just don't believe in him as much as I believe in what Alabama is. I think Bama's going to win that game. What do you think?
Okay, I'm gonna go. It's tricky because obviously you guys heard me talking about Coach Kelly there in LSU, but also obviously Alabama. Don't get me wrong, they're still a hell of a program. That's not gonna change. But obviously it's tricky now. If Saban was there, I just automatically just to be like, oh, Alabama. That's because Saban. I don't know how you could go against him, but I feel like it's kind of like a toss-up. That's how my gut's feeling it right now. I feel it's gonna be like a tight game. It's at LSU, you said?
Yeah, it's at LSU. Both teams are off of a bye too.
All right, I'm gonna roll another upset. I'm gonna say LSU on a final drive of the game. They run down the clock and hit a field goal for the win.
The spread is a 3 on that one too in favor of Alabama. So exact same thing. Those are going to be 2 must-watch games if you're going to watch games this week.
Nah, sounds good. Hey, I was telling you before we recorded, I hadn't even looked at the games, and those two sound like super exciting, and like they sound like good, like it's like quality matchups, right? Like 4 good teams, but also a lot of implications, like for the potential rankings going forward.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, thanks again for coming on, bro. Back-to-back weeks. Got to do it again, next week. Talk some more college football. There you go. Oh, TCU. The frogs. But yeah, no, thanks again, man, for coming on, and now it was another fun time.
Always, bro. Thanks for having me.
Nah, for sure. Nah, hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, we'll talk some more college football with Paul sometime soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Flame Entertainment and Sports. I hope you guys enjoyed our college football talk with Paul today. Going over the top 25 teams in the country right now in the college football playoff rankings, the first ones of the season. And, he also talked about 2 matchups going on in the SEC this weekend. They're very intriguing to watch. With all that said, once again, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at @theflame_ES. Until next time, everyone, take care.